everyone, it's Cory McCarthy and welcome to a new episode. Earlier today,
YouTube recommended a video to me called Why Onision Isn't Vegan from the channel UhOhBro.
I will link that video in the references for this video. Now, I'm not subscribed to Onision to my knowledge, and I'm only vaguely familiar with him. Primarily, I'm familiar with him as being instrumental in getting a Valion shut down on YouTube.
Which I first heard about over at my friend Marcus's, aka the Golden Ones channel.
So I decided to watch this video and see what his reasoning was on the matter. Onision does have over 2 million subscribers, and you know how I feel about the wide spreading of misinformation. So in my usual fashion, I will take talking points from his video, of which I have something to say, and provide my response. So let's get to it.
Why isn't Onision a vegan? As you may know, Onision is this guy. He's made a lot of pompous videos about meat eaters. Oh wow, 1,900 likes, 800 dislikes. That's a winning ratio.
Because the cows are clearly edible, there's also another creature that has a similar meaty substance, dogs and cats. Let's eat those too. And after we eat the dogs and cats, I have a fish tank full of fish. I think I'll eat those as well. Oh, and my little sister, she's made of meat.
Obviously, Onision isn't literally implying you should eat your little sister, but he's also obviously not trying to convince anyone to become vegetarian, rather display how irrational conversations with him can get. Onision has made video after video after video talking about how we shouldn't eat meat, not only because of the cruelty factor, but also the benefits to the planet and your own health. But the question arises, if Onision cares so much about the environment, his health, and livestock, why does Onision identify as a vegetarian instead of a vegan?
Yes, Onision, why don't you go vegan? But we'll get to that in a moment, when we address your preceding points. Overall, he is off to a decent start, calling out the redundant irrationalities that we vegans are all too familiar with ourselves, as well as recognizing the negative health, environmental, and animal exploitative factors that are opposed by vegans. But let's keep watching. After Onision explains what veganism is and demonstrates with some restaurant examples, we come to this.
Vegetarianism is pretty goddamn easy and doesn't require you change a whole lot about your diet other than simply removing meat. There are a buttload of alternatives, many of which taste fantastic. Meanwhile, for vegans, a lot of times even the fake meat they're not allowed to consume because some of it contains egg or dairy, etc. So you can't even significantly support some of the companies that are taking a stand against the meat industry because, again, they're not 100% perfect and up to your vegan standards.
Vegetarians still fund the exploitation and death of sentient animals. So of course, products that use dairy or egg ingredients would not be up to our vegan standards. We aren't just fighting the meat industry alone, but all animal exploitative industries, to the very best of our abilities. Perfection is unattainable.
The official definition of veganism per the Vegan Society even specifies as far as is possible and practical.
It's about doing the very best you can, and that means avoiding eggs and dairy, which isn't that hard. Don't let perfection be the enemy of doing good. To produce dairy to meet consumer demand,
female cows held in captivity are forcefully impregnated with sperm so that they can become pregnant and produce milk, which would have been intended for their young. Sperm, by the way, that was jacked off from a bull that was also kept in captivity. And when that calf is born, it is promptly taken from its mother's side to serve its own purpose to the farm. For dairy, sperm, meat, whatever, the cycle continues. Because that milk is meant for human consumers, not that baby, right?
Farm logic. Profits, though. And eggs involve the exploitation of chickens, so that humans can consume their periods, essentially.
And in many cases, a heinous sideshow process known as chick grinding, where male chicks are ground up alive.
Because they are deemed useless for egg production themselves. Guess what?
Sometimes they survive the grinder. Can you imagine their level of suffering?
Moving along.
Reality is, Onision consumes almond milk instead of dairy milk, and vegan cheese instead of dairy cheese. As you may or may not know, Onision grew up on somewhat of a farm and raised his own chickens. He consumed the eggs that those chickens produced, and he saw that they could be humanely treated in the process.
First of all, I am glad that you avoid real cheese and dairy. That is truly excellent and great for your viewers to hear. But about humanely treated animals or farming conditions, the type of small farm you speak of and may have grown up on would be considered an outlier and not the norm.
Even cage-free, free-range, or humane certified labeled farm conditions aren't even a shadow of what those words imply.
Those are marketing buzzwords to make people feel better about their choices. People who otherwise do sympathize with the animal's plight. Hence their attempt at, humane purchases. These folks might consider going vegan if they weren't being lied to, essentially.
A myriad of research has proven animal sentience just as you and I possess.
The capacity to feel, perceive, or experience subjectively. Even if an animal is treated well by your standards, did they give you permission to consume the products of their bodies? Do they not have a right to autonomy over their own bodies just as we do? Especially given their documented sentience. It is exploitation no matter how you want to swing it. Would you or anyone else like to be held captive so that someone could use of you and your body in a manner that they desire, even if they treat you nicely? Moreover, when it's not required for survival.
You simply do not require animal products to survive, thrive, or even engage in athletics.
So why engage in unnecessary exploitation, regardless of how well you perceive the animals as being treated?
As far as honey, guess what? Based on my research, monetizing the food that bees produce help keep the bee population higher. And if you may or may not know, Einstein once said, if bees cease to exist, we're basically all dead within 4 years. So we have to continue funding bee production. So according to Einstein, we can continue living.
First of all,
humans have actually been proven to be responsible for the mass deaths of bees by more than one means.
let that sink in for a moment. You seem to imply that bees require human intervention in order to maintain their own populations. I ask you this, if that were the case, how did bees maintain their populations prior to commercial harvesting of honey?
Bees have been producing honey for at least 100 million years. They do so to provide nourishment during the winter, nourishment for bees, not for humans. The human collection of honey appears to only date back as far as 15,000 years ago.
15,000 versus 100 million. And bees require our intervention to continue their populations? Why? Furthermore, ancient methods would have been a far cry from the current methods used to meet large-scale commercial honey demand. The commercial harvesting of honey is not without serious issues, as with any farming practice. Let's not delude ourselves. Bees are often kept in cramped conditions, endure the stress of transportation, and they can lose wings or legs during the harvesting process.
And the queen bees often have their wings clipped off so that they cannot leave the hive.
Don't fool yourself. Bee farmers are trying to make a profit, not save the bees or the planet. For the sake of the bees or the planet, at least. And just like humane buzzwords used to soften the harsh realities of meat, dairy, and egg industries, they will spin whatever tales they require to win and keep your support. Otherwise, why don't they simply protect bees and not harvest their fucking honey on a large commercial scale just to make a buck? In doing so, forcing the nasty conditions on bees that I just mentioned. You don't need honey to survive or thrive. And even if you simply enjoy the taste of honey, guess what?
You can find vegan alternatives for that, too.
Bees are social insects who live together in large, well-organized family groups. They express communication, complex nest construction, environmental control, defense, and division of labor.
And recent research has demonstrated that bees indeed express emotions, like pessimism, specifically as a result of their experiences.
So, why exploit them? Why contribute to their distress and pessimism, for instance?
Do you consume any of these foods? We got blueberries, cherries, apples, cranberries, cucumbers, melons, oranges. Vegans, do you consume any of those? Well, congratulations, a lot of those are pollinated by bees, which means you are using the efforts of animals so you can consume food, which could very well be seen as an animal byproduct. Uh-oh, SpaghettiOs, this looks like a freaking plot hole.
Now you're engaging in a tu quo quo fallacy, or at least implying one. Recall the official vegan definition that I shared previously. A way of living which seeks to exclude, as far as is possible and practical, all forms of exploitation of and cruelty to animals for food, clothing, or any other purpose. Key words, as far as is possible and practical. Perfection is not required, nor even humanly possible. You should instead strive to do the best you can. Strive to do good. Just because bees may be involved in the pollination of particular vegan foods out in nature, does not in turn provide us the right to directly exploit them for their honey. Nor, by definition, does it somehow make veganism irrelevant or hypocritical.
Veganism is extremely healthy. According to an intense amount of sources, veganism will make you live longer, and if you can pull off veganism, that's awesome. Vegetarianism is a healthy middle. Mind you, that's not to say it's not important to recognize the fact that a lot of companies are corrupt and do not treat chickens fairly.
Well, I'm glad you recognize the healthfulness of going vegan, but this is where my agreement with you actually ends. If veganism is extremely healthy by your own words, why would you accept a less healthy alternative, like vegetarianism? Vegetarians still fund heinous industries, as I previously discussed, and even if you raise your own chickens and cows, you're still engaging in the direct exploitation of sentient beings. How is that treating an animal fairly? Would you say that someone could exploit you or someone else fairly?
There's a good chance that it's more difficult for people to be on your side when you constantly condemn them for not being as perfect as you, especially when none of us know everything about the subject. Like for instance, this graph here. It implies that if you eat fish, that you'll actually live longer than vegans. Does Onision eat fish? Of course not. Fish is still meat. But if this graph is in fact relevant to reality, by telling people not to eat fish, you could be telling them not to live as long. And that is a ridiculous thing to tell someone.
Of course, no one knows everything, but that's why education is paramount. To continually grow as a person and learn more. It isn't ignorance that pisses me off so much as it is willful ignorance, when you know what's up, but you choose to turn a blind eye and engage anyway. Furthermore, I would love to see the research from which those fish stats were pulled, so that I can check out the study controls, the duration, the sample size, etc. Because for one, fish can be quite contaminated, just from the natural habitats in which they live.
Aside from possible mercury issues, fish absorb contaminants such as PCBs, PBDEs, dioxins, and chlorinated pesticides from water, sediments, and the foods that they eat. Those all end up right in your body, building up over time, leading to potential health problems. Some contaminants can take as long as 5 or more years to fully eliminate from your system. Furthermore, research has demonstrated that fish are sentient and emotional beings that feel pain, develop cultural traditions, and show signs of intelligence such as cooperation and reconciliation.
So, no. Given this, I'd say it is perfectly acceptable to steer people away from consuming fish, and to educate them on the matter. Anyhow, at this point you simply recap all of your previous statements and conclude that your dietary approach makes sense to you, and that is why you won't go vegan. Perhaps given what I've shared, you will take steps to remove honey and eggs from your diet and actually go vegan. This in turn will set an example for your massive following, a following of which I hope ends up finding this video to get a bit of education on the topic. This is where I ask my viewers to share the fuck out of this video. Share, 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 and share some more. Also like it, get it seen, get Onision and his viewers to watch this. This is a chance to reach and educate a lot of people and potentially welcome in some new vegans. Anyhow, please stir up discussion below and share your thoughts. If you have any that you'd like me to personally respond to, please leave those comments over at my blog at strongerfastervegan.com under the appropriate entry, which I will link below for your convenience. And please subscribe to my channel if you've not done so already. I release content frequently. Otherwise, till next time, my friends.